Directors, please.
I got it.
Barnes.
Here.
Bauman.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Gorman.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Hermany.
Here.
Kaiser.
Here.
Maple.
Here.
Zebro.
Here.
All present.
Item 3, pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as posted. Okay, we have a motion by Mike and a second by Mark. Any questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item 5, approval of the minutes. Item 5A, the special Board of Education policy meeting on the 21st. And then we have B, the regular Board of Education meeting the 21st.
I got a red Jeep.
It's Diane's? Did you do that?
No, I just walked by it, the thing's going off, so.
It's the red bridge.
I grabbed my key and I pushed it down, locked button, hoping.
The garage door open. I see anybody in the front seat taking it away.
My dog's in there.
Who's in there? Diane, on the special Board of Education meeting minutes, I think we should list policy 4213, student supervision and welfare as well, because that has not been approved of the first time.
Okay, where are we, Peter?
Down, the third paragraph from where it lists the first reading of the new policies presented.
Okay.
I believe we should have 4213 listed as well.
Can you add that, Amy? Sure.
Otherwise, I'd make a motion.
Thank you.
With that correction.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Peter and a second by Mark, and yet you have a...
I'm just gonna abstain due to my tardiness.
Okay, okay. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion will carry. Item 6, public forum. The public forum provides the public with the opportunity to ask questions about or address issues included on the school board meeting agenda. General operating rules of the public forum will be determined by the board president once the number of people wishing to speak is identified on the night of the meeting. Prior to addressing the board, please clearly state your name and address and share with the board what agenda item you are speaking to the board on. At this time, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the board? I would. Go ahead.
Kelly Mullins, 204-810 Valley Lane, Mosinee, Wisconsin, 54455. I'm here on behalf of the Agriculture Teacher Extended Contract. I'm asking you to support the extended contract not only for 10 days, but for an additional 10 to 15 days, with a total of 20 to 25 days extended. I've had the privilege of chaperoning a few of the FFA events that the Agriculture Extended Contract would be in jeopardy of. I've gone to the state FFA convention and watched as the students who have worked hard all year submit their work and win awards for their efforts. With the help of their aid teacher, these students also participate in other contests and conferences both within the school year and during the summer. At the state convention, I have witnessed the students doing community service assignments by helping fill backpacks, weeding the city parks and gardens, and helping the local food pantry. They also get a chance to see businesses in operation in the agriculture industry. The people working with them are in awe of how they help and are respectful in doing so. In the greenhouse, they grow flowers to make our community streets look prettier with hanging baskets and flower beds, and they help the county fairs, tractor shows, and our own log jam. Not all students like sports. My son is one of them. His hobbies are snowboarding and farming. He did not want to join FFA because he doesn't like doing group activities. We asked him to give it a try, and after the first year, he became a board member. Agriculture class in FFA is what kept him going through the school year. Just last week, he even competed in a regional contest with another FFA student for safe tractor operator with the hopes of going to state in July. Since the FFA advisor is listed as equivalent to a middle school coach, I think it's necessary to extend the agriculture teacher contract. Those two positions go hand in hand. It's a position that goes all year and throughout the summer. 10 days is not enough to cover the extra time the aid teacher FFA advisor does, even with an assistant's help. It needs to be extended not just for our school, but also our community and the communities around us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay. Wait a second, are you guys related?
I'll find out when I say my address. Joshua Mullins, 204-810 Valley Lane, Mosinee. Just to go off of what last meeting, I do want to. I heard something as this board was speaking, and it should really be specific to the position, not the person. And apparently there was never guidelines for this. If Ms. Babick will get another opportunity to move on, I'd like to know that Mosinee would be able to entertain another FFA advisor, and they could continue what Ms. Babick started. The extended time, it covers programs that involve leadership, which I believe in general our society is lacking. Networking, and I don't mean Facebook, where people get to go make contacts with other schools, their students, similar interests. The skills contest, hands-on learning, this is important for us. I'm going to keep this brief. One thing I want to stress is food. Consider when you eat where your food came from. And if your answer is Piggly Wiggly, you probably should have had FFA.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Yes, go ahead.
Justin Martin, 132451 Fairview Road, Edgar, Wisconsin, 54426. I am also here for the extended FFA contracts because I serve as the Mosinee FFA president for this next coming year. And with the limited days, if we're to stay limited, there's not many things that we can do. Like it cuts our agenda for the summer in like very big numbers. Sorry, my language isn't very good here. But just kind of give a perspective for the stuff we do during the summer. We have, like Kelly stated, we just got back from state convention. State convention is 4 days long. It's in Madison. We took 15 kids this year, and with that, we submitted some work for competitions. Myself, I was a state finalist in tractor restoration, where goes off a SAE. SAE is a supervised agriculture experience where kind of all year long you work with somebody on a project. So mine was restoring a tractor, and I had over 400 hours in this tractor. So you kind of restore it, and then you fill out a 25 page application and submit it to the state FFA, and it gets judged, and I was able to move on as a state finalist. But long story short, without the help of Ms. Babick, not only during the school year but during the summer, the application is lengthy, the work is lengthy, so it takes the extra time that can't really fit it in during the school day, and it's kind of to an extent where you can't really work on it by yourself. You need some guidance from some people with experience. So not only state convention with our awards, but we also have our officer retreat, which is a 4-day long event, where we, as officer team, there's 9 to 10 of us usually. We head up to Manitowish Waters to the North Lakeland Discovery Center, where we kind of sit down with other chapters. There's usually 4 to 5 other schools there, and we plan our meetings for the year. So we talk about our volunteer activities, what we're going to, how we're going to collaborate and kind of get more members involved, open it up to them, and then also, like I said, plan our meetings in depth, what we're going to do at our meetings, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to feature. But outside of those, the officer retreat and the state convention, that's 8 days. So if we were limited to 10, we can't really do more planning for our fair, which we have members that participate in 2 fairs. The Wausau Fair, which is 5 days long, the Athens Fair, which is 3 days long. So there's another 8 days that our members and our advisor are usually there most of the time, or yeah, for the whole 8 days, plus prep work. So if we're still limited to 10 days, we kind of have to eliminate our prep work. We're kind of stranded by ourselves. So really what what I'm asking is to extend the contract so we can have the guidance to succeed. Because with most of the contests, there is rewards. So last week, as I took second in the state for the tractor restoration, I took home a $150 check. Kind of go back and either help me for my further, like college and career, whatever I plan to go on to, or put back into my project to continue it. So I guess I'm really asking for more days so we can improve and keep our guidance so we can succeed further. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Anybody else would like to speak? Okay, we will move on. Item 7, special presentation, discussion, 2018-19 library report. Now, Lori.
Carrie with me, Carrie Lichtenstein, she's my high school assistant, and most of you, if you don't know me, I'm Lori Agema, I'm the district librarian for Mosinee, and every June I put together reports for you guys, fill you in on what we've done in the libraries during the school year. So first we start out with some numbers, and first our circulation statistics, and you can see at the elementary school we circulated over 40,000 materials, that's to both students and teachers. And at the middle school, high school, we have a combined server, so the numbers are together. We circulated over 23,000 materials. At the high school, for the high school, middle school, we circulated over 2,600 Chromebooks. Those were to the students who either forgot their Chromebooks or didn't have their Chromebooks charged or lost their Chromebooks. So that's sort of a daily occurrence over there. And we circulated 107 chargers that went out. That didn't count the chargers that we loan out in the library. So when study hall kids are in, they can charge their Chromebook while they're working in there. Our collection size, the elementary school has over 21,000 materials. The middle school, high school combined library has over 22,000 materials. Okay. On the next slide, you'll see our classes. At the elementary school this year, I was over there the majority of my time with the way the schedule was, and I saw grades K-3, and I saw a total of 1,023 classes throughout the school year. On Tuesday mornings, I was over at the middle school, and I saw grades 4 and 5, and I saw over 400 classes over there. I was also at the library, at the high school library, Friday morning just for 4 hours. That's all I get over there a week. I work on and off with Sue Brandt's class. I work with the study hall kids that come in. Carrie really over there, she's over there full time. She keeps that library going because that's the library I am in the least because I mostly work the elementary and middle. And next year my schedule is changing again. With the new middle school schedule, I will be at the middle school with 4 and 5 every afternoon, at the elementary Monday through Thursday in the morning with 2 and 3, and that'll keep my 4 hours Friday morning to touch base at the high school. So the other statistics on there, my elementary assistant covered 444 classes, and Connie at the middle school covered over 300 classes. We had over 10,000 study hall students, so the libraries are busy places. Okay. Database searches, these are some of the databases that we paid for, paid subscriptions, and I'm not going to read all of them to you, but you can see that they are highly used. BookFlix is a big one for the elementary and middle school. It's a Scholastic product where they've got fiction and nonfiction books paired together. The kids can watch little videos or the book can be read to them. PebbleGo is a big one. That's a research database for elementary, more elementary than middle, but some of our younger middle school people use it. The Wisconsin Schools Digital Library Consortium is something that started last year, and it's a statewide consortium where what we subscribe to, and it gets ebooks in the hands of our kids. And we have the middle schoolers enrolled in that, and this year we've really jumped usage, and they've accessed over 1,000 ebooks through that consortium, which was nice to see. Just a few highlights, and we put some pictures up there. At the elementary school, I'm working on doing makerspace units with the third graders, and I want to expand that next year with the second graders as well. I give them, we mostly have Legos right now, and I give them projects they have to design, and then we use the Chromebooks and they take pictures and they write about what they designed. This year they made a bridge and it had to hold at least one box of book tape. And some were real proud how it could, oh, mine could hold 5. So they were talking about their designs. We had a new smart screen added to the IMC. I did some collaboration with third grade where we incorporated classroom lessons into the library lessons. That went well. I did early childhood weekly story times. I tried to weed some of the dated materials in the easy fiction and nonfiction section. That's always an ongoing project. At the middle school, Connie and I were able to do a more complete weed over there, the fiction and nonfiction section. We got rid of some outdated materials. We doubled the amount of books being accessed through the ebook consortium, like I said. I continued to expand on the 4th and 5th grade digital citizenship units. Common Sense Media, and I have a link on there, has really good lessons that I've been incorporating with the 4th and 5th graders. And Google actually is coming up with some interesting lessons too, because digital citizenship is a big thing now in our digital world. At the high school, Carrie and I hosted our 4th annual Scholastic Book Fair in December. We do it for 2 days, and we combine it with the citywide Breakfast with Santa and craft fair. We raised $700 for scholarships, $700 for the high school IMC Special Areas collection, and we donated $150 for Evening of Elegance and sponsored other contests and activities. We're huge with the one-to-one Chromebook initiative, whether we're checking out Chromebooks to the kids who forget. Carrie assists the students with the Chrome savers when the kids come in and they're having trouble with their Chromebooks. She's their first stop, so every day you just about have somebody coming in with some issue. Some repairs are harder than others. And you can see we commissioned some artwork for the library from the art students this year as well. So coming next year, some of our goals, we're going to keep going with the Chromebooks, partnering with the Chromebook initiative in the district. I'm continuing to work on mapping our K-12 curriculum. I have 2 days that I'll be putting in this summer in July as part of our district PD days. I've actually been voted on the Wisconsin School Digital Library Consortium board for next year, so I will have some input on selecting and purchasing and advocating for the statewide consortium, so I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, I hope to expand the elementary makerspace units. I'm curious to see where the new middle school schedule will take me. I'm hoping to do more collaboration, especially with grades 4 and 5, since I'll be over there every day. And Carrie and the high school library club are going to do a book drive, and it will donate. The donations will benefit the Children's Center. Give a kid a book program at the Marshfield Clinic Hospital. So, and I plan to keep attending. There's area library meetings at CISA 9 quarterly. I will still be going to those next year as well. And the last slide is all of us in the library. We'll have some new faces next year because Mrs. Pekka will be working as the elementary secretary with Heidi over there. And Kelly is doing a different job at the middle school next year. So we'll have a few new faces to add. So that's us.
Great. Thanks. Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Lori.
Thanks.
I have one question.
Yes?
So privacy is a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that some of your teaching is about leaving the digital footprint and
Oh, yeah.
all of that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
when people log out of Google, they're taught to log out of it entirely and then delete it,
Mm-hmm.
and those types of things.
Yes.
Is that, how are you getting buy-in from the entire staff on that? I know that, I think kids are maybe better at that than the adults are. So I'm just curious.
That would be if I could bring Brady in as well, because when I work primarily with the students And, yeah, we go over that a lot, and one of the things too that comes up is if something, if you see something, you get something, what do? Log out. The buzzword is always tell a trusted adult. We broke it down. What does that mean? Who is a trusted adult? Who should you go to? What should you do? So, definitely.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8O business. Item 8 is discussion and possible decision on the second reading of the quarterly update of policies. And everybody did receive that. Any questions?
Maybe again, just a quick explanation that you really had two policies that were there for a first reading, in the sense that they were brand new deal policies. We approved a bunch of them because they were already in our policy. Policy 3140, which is the non-renewal, resignation, termination. And then secondly, the 5500 policy, the student code of conduct. We went through those. Steve Lavelle took you through those last time, but he also explained that that was as a first reading, and those would need to come back to the board for a second reading. The one that really kind of got overlooked was policy 4213. That was basically a revised policy, but in the process of presenting it to the board, there were two places where there needed to be a little check mark. And Ashley basically said that, I don't know if you want to go to that one or not, but if you can call that up on your computer, 4213, what you would see is when you get down to letters A and B, what has now happened is there's been an X placed in front of the following language. It does say that support staff members shall report any accident or safety hazard which they're informed about to their immediate supervisor. But it then goes on to say, this is what we didn't have checked last time. Further, each support staff member shall also promptly report to the principal any accident or safety hazards that she or he detects. So the language was designed for us to make sure the principal is aware of that. The same thing happens in letter B, where when we're talking about harmful, dangerous, violent criminal activities, threats of these activities by students to the district administrator, local public safety agencies, and school officials. But what it didn't do was say, additionally, each support staff member shall also promptly report to the principal any knowledge of threats of violence by students. That had been discussed with the administration. The recommendation had been to Steve to make sure there's a little X in there, that when it was presented to you as the board last time, that was not X'd. And so we didn't feel that we could go ahead and approve that with the second reading. It's a revision of an existing policy, so it just needs a second reading tonight. But that language is now making sure that our principals are included in terms of the awareness should a support staff member suspect any of those situations happening. So the first two are really simply second readings because they were brand new to the district. This last one, 4213, is also a second reading, but it's to let you know that there's an asterisk that's now being checked in that policy. And I can try to explain it more than that if you want me to.
And just to clarify, that's why I didn't have
Yeah, I
4213,
see
because
that
it wasn't
now.
a brand new.
I won't go back and amend my motion. Thank you.
Sure.
Questions? If not, I would need a motion.
Also move to approve the second reading.
Okay. We have a motion by Mark, is there a second?
I'll say.
A second by
No,
Mike.
that's fine.
Discussion.
Don't have to select A or B, or you include them both.
Both together.
We're doing both, there are two separate policies, so in both A and B, the little check marks are included.
I was just reading this over up here, so I'm a little confused by the way it was worded, that's all.
Okay. Got it.
It says
Yeah,
at the
I saw
top,
that
need
too.
to choose whether to include option
Yeah.
in A or B. I was just confused by the wording, that's all.
The A and B?
It should be
Yeah.
A and B.
Just,
You can
okay,
choose, yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Kevin, it is confusing.
okay, very good, thank you. You explained them both as though they needed to be together, so I got, very good, I'm ready to vote.
Right. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry. Item 8B, discussion and possible decision approval of the agricultural extended contract.
Well, first off, I would like to thank all of you for accepting the 10 extended days at our last meeting. Tonight, after talking with Brittany, we would like to recommend 20 or more extended days. I do understand this is an anomaly. When you look at, we have a total of 10 staff members or 11 staff members that get extended contracts. And so what I do as a principal is I look at, okay, is this what other districts are doing? And other districts are doing that. There's about 250 school districts that give extended contracts for agriculture / FFA. It's kind of sticky because you don't know, is it FFA, is it extended contracts? And that's the part that I was struggling with when we first started talking about this. So in January, actually, we looked at what are local schools doing, so we asked local schools. So Edgar schools, they do have extended contracts. Merrill does. Stratford got back to us. They do. Wittenberg-Burnhamwood does. Wisconsin Rapids, Anago, and those are the schools that let us know what they were doing. So those are the local schools. When Darlene contacted other schools to find out if this is what's happening in our conference and in the surrounding areas, those schools were. I can't say whether, I can't say what happened to them because everything got back to us in some of the other schools. So what we're doing now, after we discussed, what are we doing with the extended contract? What's the difference between the FFA contract and extended contract? We're paying Brittany to work with students in the summer. That's the extended contract. And then during the regular school year, that's the FFA contract. You can see on the links, or if you have a paper copy, those are the 2 sheets of paper that we have in front of you. Some of the work is still FFA in the summer, and talking with other schools, that's what they do. They give an extended contract to do some FFA work and other types of school work. And I think, the thing we should also focus on is that we are asking, like I said, what other schools are doing. And if we would take this away and if Brittany would leave, I think we'd have a hard time finding another teacher that would come here and say, where's my extended contracts to work with kids in the summer? So, as John Mullen stated, I think it would be really difficult to find another teacher that would be willing to come here. In the past, like way long ago for history, like Kevin, you might know this, but back in the day it was 40 days. The extended contract used to be 40 days in the past. So, like I said, we're recommending 20 or more. I know Brittany would be happy with more. I would be happy with more. I know the community would be happy with more, some of the people sitting here today. Do you guys have any questions on the paperwork in front of you?
So you're requesting an additional 20 days
Total
onto the 10?
20, the
Or
total.
total 20?
Yeah, but more would be okay.
And one of the things when we came before you the last time, we couldn't specifically say, these are how the days in June are going to be used, or how the days in July would be used, and I asked Nate to sit down with Brittany and prioritize that. So in the enclosure, whether you click on it or if you have a paper copy, you can see what they are indicating, how the first 9.5 days would be used in June for the days which you've already approved. And then should you approve another 11 days, that goes to, I think, 20.5. That would be basically the FFA officer retreat and the state safe tractor operation contest. So really it gives you an indication, as they said, it does involve FFA. And that's where so this is what other districts are doing. I could, Nate Renoff, Edgar, Merrill, Wisconsin, Anago.
I can tell you if they weren't doing it, I would not be here right now. I would not be asking you, and I would tell Brittany, this is what other schools are doing.
That doesn't mean there isn't a better way to do it or a different way to do it, and perhaps as a board you want to direct somebody to really take a look at it. But in terms of getting through this summer, maybe it was my fault, but when I looked at the way this was handled in the past, it didn't seem to be a major issue. It seemed like it was pretty much brought up. Originally it had been 40 days, then it was down to 20 days. And it seemed to be something that went pretty smoothly in front of the board.
as you can see, she does volunteer quite a few. It goes well over the 20. I guess one thing we would ask is, you know, if you're willing to do 20, I talked with Brittany, would she be willing to still volunteer some of her time with the Wisconsin Cranberry Growers, Log Jam, the City Flowers, and the Swiderski Equipment Competition? And she talked about she would still be willing to do that, but I would prefer that you would prefer or approve that kind of stuff, say it's okay for her to do that in the summer, just so that we're really saving our butts and our tails knowing that you approve of her doing those extra.
To get this all completed, how many more hours do you need? On the schedule, because we gave 10, right?
I think if I,
So you need
Kevin,
15.
you're really good at
I
math.
see
You read
20,
it
I
all.
see 26.
I asked a question.
26.
Well, there's 26 and a quarter
Total.
more. Well,
Outside of the
25 and 3 quarters basically is what you're saying,
Yeah.
more than the 10.
Yeah,
So you need another additional 15
15
days, 16 days.
yeah.
No, 26 more.
26.
25 and 3 quarters more on top of the 9 and a half, well, on top of the 10.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was added in here already.
So, I guess my preference would be that we have a motion and a second before we would have the rest of the discussion, but I do have some things to ask about.
Okay,
So, just for a process, so.
sure. Go ahead now.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend Ms. Baddock's contract for an additional 15 days in addition to the 10 that this board has already authorized.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Matt, a second by Mark, to an additional 15 days. Discussion.
Is that what all the, that what motion would be with these listings?
Well, no, that,
So it's basically all of these here.
All of them?
These 11, well, it covers the whole thing is what you're saying.
well, I mean, I think that's part of the discussion is,
You're asking for 15 rather than 26.
correct, but that motion does not require Ms. Baddock to donate her time. So it's not a if this, then that motion, it's we're authorizing this many days. If Ms. Baddock wants to donate more time to spend more time with the kids, that's something I greatly appreciate. I know she has done that in the past. But with that being said, to your point that you made, Nate, I just want to get this out before it slips my chalkboard gets wiped clean regularly, is that I think that anyone that's working a summer contract with you or that volunteers their time and is spending time with kids, that obviously creates a liability when they're doing that. But I think that you emailing someone authorization to spend time with kids on behalf of the district or behalf of yourself as the supervisor really mitigates that. I don't personally want you coming to every board meeting asking, is it okay if Brittany donates, a day here or there? I think if she has your authority, that would meet any expectation we as a board would have.
Okay. Amy, oh, I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
I think at our last board meeting, we asked for this list, which we got. And then I think John said that we would go through the list and decide what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And I know some of this stuff we didn't do in the past, so I guess I'm wondering why it's on the list now.
For the summer, and then we assume that it's done, that you be able to confirm to the board that this is the work that was done, this, to be able to explain exactly that type of issue. Although it only encompassed these 3 calendar days, this is how many hours of actual work it was. Just to leave us in a very comfortable feeling and the community comfortable that they're getting what they're paying for.
Okay. What's the supervised agricultural experience? Is that something new too?
No, so this is what Justin was talking about when he addressed the board. So his area in particular was his tractor restoration program. And so it depends on the student and what their interest is in the agriculture field. For example, I had a student who graduated last year that he raised honeybees. And so his supervised agriculture experience was his honeybees that he had raised. And so he had his hives and he documented that. They have their expenses, they have their return on that. So it's very specific to each student. So I can't just sit down with a group of 20 individuals and say, all right, we're all gonna work on our SAE right now because Justin's tractor restoration and Ernie's was bees, and I have another girl whose would be a dairy. So it's very diverse for those learners, but ultimately what they're doing is they're gaining real life experience now as a student, which they'll hopefully utilize either in their future career or as a hobby somewhere down the road.
Okay, and this officer retreat, is that something that we've done in the past? And again, I mean, when I'm looking at the hours and the time frame, it coincides with FFA convention that you're asking for 19 hours a day.
So the officer retreat is something that we've done every year since I've been employed here. Prior to my employment, I'm not sure what Mr. Workus had done or not done. It's pretty common that the majority of agriculture teachers do attend an officer retreat of some type. Ultimately, it's a training opportunity for our leadership team. The officers learn their roles and responsibilities within their positions on the team specifically. We actually attend with 5 other chapters within the state. Marshfield obviously being one of our closer ones. Merrill goes with us. Rochel's attended with us. We're missing Auburndale. I'm missing somebody else. Oh no, we're number 5. So we have the opportunity to collaborate with their officer team. We get ideas from them. We share some of our ideas. We talk about service learning opportunities. The students have a chance to network with not only their own team, but with the other teams from the area. We set our entire calendar year so that when we have our welcome back to school, our meet and greet picnic in September, we hand out sheets to every single member saying, here's all of our activities that we have planned throughout the year. Here's the meeting time. Here's the recreation activity that we're going to be doing afterwards. Take off of work so that you can be there, you can participate. They design our chapter t-shirts. They set personal goals as officers. They set chapter goals. They set fundraiser goals. I mean, it's a lot of that busy work that we need that time to get done in the summer that we wouldn't be able to do during the school year. You try and get 10 kids together during the school year that are athletes, that are students that are working, it's virtually impossible.
So to follow up what Amy's asking, 76 hours and 4 days, you're not sleeping. I'm assuming there's preparation time in
Yes,
that.
there is. And a lot of that is things that I'm meeting with kids in July. I have a handful of them that can come in and work with me. We send home, papers to the parents so they know what's going on. But we go up then to Manitwish Waters from Monday through Thursday, and we're up there that entire time.
Kevin, you had a couple, or Amy, I'm sorry, Boone.
Oh, no, more. With the Athens Fair, is that something new? Did we do that before?
Yep, Brenna Murray last year was actually recognized. I don't remember the name specifically of the award she received, but she was the top shower due to her dedication at the fair. Not that she necessarily was the best shower for dairy cattle, but her commitment to her involvement at the fair and being with her animals and just her presence there was a huge award for her to receive. Only one student throughout the entire fair is selected to receive that, and so this is an ongoing thing again as well. But one of the opportunities last year, my 20 days were already gone, so it's just a volunteer opportunity that I'm there with those individuals.
So you're just there as support though? I mean, it's not like you're there doing something, you're just...
It depends. So depending on how many animals the individual has, sometimes I might be there watching their animals and help prepping them. It could be that I'm pitching straw and getting their bedding ready for their livestock. It just depends on what their actual project is at the fair.
So the cranberry growers, is that something we've done in the past too, or is that brand new?
This is new. So from my understanding, this rotates around the areas where cranberries are grown, and Dubé has actually been asked to host this year. So I don't have a ton of information. It's just the little bit of communication I've had with them currently. What they're looking for is they need help, obviously, on the 13th for setup. So they're looking at individuals that can help set up the tents and move tables and things like that, get them all prepped. And then the 14th, they would like us to be almost like tour guides. So taking people out to the bogs, explaining the process of how cranberries are grown and harvested, how we select cranberries for white cranberry juice versus red cranberry juice, how we differentiate cranberries that are used for juice compared to cranberries that are fresh consumed compared to dried cranberries. So really kind of an educational opportunity for us with a craft that's important, obviously, to our county.
Now with the log jam, when I looked at the detail on your sheet for that, I'm guessing that, so we got like a booth where they're selling ice cream and whatever, yet you're not there the whole time. I'm assuming it's like the people in your club or whatever who are volunteering their time?
Virtually I'm there the entire time. It's a full weekend for us, just because of the fact, obviously, there's money that's handled and things like that. Those kids need direct adult supervision pretty much the entire time that we are there. And it's a food product too, so we have to be a little careful with those opportunities as well.
And the city flowers one, that's where most of that stuff is being done during the school year though?
Well, we took on, so the flower bed that's by the bridge, we take care of that, as well as there are a couple now that are in River Park as well that we are overseeing this year.
Because I know in the past, when I drive through town, I see city workers pulling weeds and I'm like, I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with paying you to go pull weeds. You know what I mean? So I'd rather see that be a city worker where I've seen them do, or volunteering from your club or something. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to figure this out. And I know last year we didn't do the Swiderski one either. So
last year was the first time that they offered this.
Right.
This year is the second opportunity for us. We did not engage in it last year. It ended up falling, I believe, the week of Log Jam. That was why we did not participate in it. And that was one of the things that we discussed with them as well as, you know, if it's Log Jam, it's an opportunity that we're not going to be able to engage in. And with Swiderski being right here, it was important to them that we didn't have conflict of interest with those dates. But I do have a student, well, I have two students that are potentially pursuing careers in agronomy. So this would be a perfect opportunity for those students to engage further in what exactly is agronomy, and maybe gain internships with Swiderski as well.
So, I have no doubt that your contribution is valuable to the students, the community, the district, the nonprofit organizations that we support. Part of it for me is a math problem. I understand, I know that you are present with the students as their chaperone. I have a real hard time paying extra money for sleep time. When I do my math count for June, I come up with 6 days, not 9.5. I come up with essentially, for the night of the 10th and the 11th and the 12th, I come up with, let's just round it, 24 hours of sleep time. So to me, I would take off of that 76 hours for June and make that number 52. I also, in part because of ignorance, I'm sure, I'm not likely to pay for drive time if you have additional chaperones with you. So I look at June and I see 6 days. I don't see 9.5. I look at July and I see 7.5, not 11. Same reason that I just referenced for the nights that you're overnight at the officer retreat. You also indicated that you were, that if you hadn't had another adult, you would have only been able to take one student, which to me presumably means that you were there supporting largely that one student anyway, because of the needs that that student's work or project needed assistance with. So really, a lot of the rest of the support for the other students perhaps fell on the shoulders of the chaperone. Obviously, as the employee, you have the ultimate responsibility, so I totally get that. I do think it's prudent and wise and important to support the fairs, both of them, and the agronomy competition. I think that when it comes to the cranberry growers and the log jam and the city program, we had a conversation at personnel on an unrelated matter about some things that, you know, the city benefits from, but at the expense of the school district. And so these become challenges that all the municipalities are facing. I was not prepared to go to this extent, Matt. And I know we're in discussion, so if I don't get, if this is not acceptable at this time, I was not prepared to go to this number, but I would be prepared if you would accept it as a friendly amendment to reduce your 15 additional days down to 9. Which would be a grand total then of 19 days. My intention being, the Cranberry Growers Association, to me, sounds like they're looking for Mosinee School District paid staff to do volunteer work that this private company should be seeking volunteers, private association made up by some of our community's wealthiest people, the cranberry growers. They ought to either hire people to do the work that you're describing, or they ought to be able to, as an association, go out and find some people to do that work themselves.
There is a stipend that is associated with the Cranberry Growers event. They have contacted us regarding that, but I told them I was waiting on board approval.
I respect that. Perfect. Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I'm very familiar professionally with the association, so, yeah. So that was, I was putting that forth as a potential.
I respect everything you had to say, and I can understand your rationale for some of it, but I also disagree that we pay our staff drive time at everywhere they're going. They are covered under a work comp insurance when they're traveling on behalf. That is work time. I understand it's not the most productive work time necessarily, at least I hope it's not, and they're not texting and playing on their computers and researching stuff while they're driving. But that is something that in the workplace, we compensate people for drive time to get to where they're going. So I would respectfully disagree that I think drive time is included. Excuse me. Also, not that I've done it nearly as much as teachers, but I've been responsible for groups of young people when traveling outside of the greater Mosinee area. And I would argue that it's more difficult during the non-structured time to be responsible and supervise. I don't believe in paying 24 hours a day. I also don't believe in paying the sleep time, but I know that when you have people who have 10 hours of structured time a day, there's still 6 hours of non-structured time. And the district is still responsible for that trip, so I think there should be compensation with that, which is why my motion was not for an additional 26 days or 25 days, that I limited to 15, because I do believe that there is room for volunteering and additional time, like many other activities within the school. And to compensate, not necessarily to that specificity, but to address some of the issues in that there is downtime, there is social time with that.
So to let you know that I did my research as well, I went on to the schedule for the convention you folks were at last week. And on day number 1, the day number 1 was the volunteer time, actually. But day number 2, the first day of sessions, there were 3 sessions. The last session of the day started at 8 p.m. So it's not like it was over at 6, okay? So there was a morning, a late afternoon, a noon, a late afternoon, and then an 8 p.m. session that didn't end until 10 p.m. And so I get that it wasn't just an 8-hour day. I respect that. So and I know I heard you say 15 days, and like I said, I wasn't prepared to go to 9, but I would be prepared to go to 9. That's my only comment.
And the reason all this did come up again is because it is hard to tell the difference between the extended contract days, which is part of the classroom instruction, versus an FFA advisory, which is out of the extracurricular. Totally 2 different items.
And there's some precedent issues here
Right.
too, with
Right,
other.
so you gotta be careful, because there's also
organizations.
comes into play with a lot of other elements that are within our schools. You have a lot of other advisors who are doing the same thing, who can also argue the same point of coming back as far as extended contract days versus the extracurricular. Hence being the reason why this is all coming up the way it is.
Right.
And I can also appreciate that you and I have had this
Yes,
conversation
yeah.
multiple times, Diane, and I don't disagree that this board has a lot of work to do over the next year before we get to extended contracts round 2 a year from now, where there may be significant changes to clearly identifying this is what the FFA advisor role is, or any role for that matter within the school, and this is what extended contracts are for. But I also don't believe we have the time to reinvent that wheel right now.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. I think it's an important thing that we would address, and it might end up very different than my motion, but I also know that these are all things that there's a whole bunch of kids excited about doing this summer. And I'd like to see them have those opportunities. We have the ability to give them those opportunities. And then we need to do some serious work in creating expectations and framework for what extended contracts and what advisor roles are, especially when the two intersect.
Right, right. Well, and that's, I think I understand what you're saying and everything adds up correctly. But, you know, we're budgeted for the 20 and you're going beyond that. That's my concern. I don't want to go back where I think it'd be more of an issue to extend it even further than what it's always been in the past so many years. So, that's just my comment. But anybody else?
Well, I think our advisor has got a lot of good value because it's volunteerism, learning our young people how to volunteer and to be a part of the community and doing community work. There are people that are complaining that we cannot get volunteers. What better example? What better training?
Anybody else?
Okay, so I'll just jump in as well. I share the same logic as Kevin does, that the math in public for me is a bit of a struggle. I think the FAA program is great. I think you're doing a great job. I want to see, excuse me, the farming community continue to grow and have opportunity, and I'm very supportive of it. I want to see everything on this list accomplished. That said, it's also about precedent, and I don't want to see other teachers, staff that are also doing things during the summer saying, well, I do this too, I also deserve compensation. It needs to be fair and equitable as well. So, again, I would support going, certainly not to the 15, I can't support that. But if right now we're talking at the lowest 9, I can potentially support that. But I want to see everything on this get accomplished. But when in my mind, again, going back to the math, when I add up the current recommendation of the 20 days, plus then the FAA, I think it's the C2 rate, that total becomes more than a head coach. That's not fair and equitable.
And I just went back to, when I look at what the other schools are doing, I thought, I was looking at that, I was thinking the same thing. But then, because I see the other schools are doing it, that's why I support the extended days with FFA.
That doesn't mean that we have to do a district school.
Right, and that's where I go back to, if we don't, I don't know, if Brittany leaves, I don't know if we're gonna be able to find someone that's gonna come in and say, why would I take this program when I can't do extended contract days like the other schools in Wisconsin? So that's why I'm supporting it, because it's what other schools are doing around that area. If there weren't schools doing it around the area, I would have told Brittany, we should not be going to the board for that.
It really presents you with a unique set of challenges in the sense that your extended contracts are paid on a per diem basis. When we have our school psychs doing stuff during the summer, they're pretty much doing what they do during the rest of the year. Hence, it's a per diem. When we have our counselors come in and work with students during the summer, it's the same thing they do during the rest of the year. Hence, they get the per diem. In this case, it's a mixture of FFA activities and some of the things that are an extension of what Brittany does during the year as a part of her, regular teaching contract. But what I asked Nate to do was, A, identify what they're going to be, and clearly some of those are listed as FFA. And in some of my conversation with you as board members, the logical question is, well, if it's FFA, then why don't we extend the FFA contract to go into the summer? Because that would be paid as something other than at the per diem rate. You may want to do that. But once again, I think time is extremely limited. When I came to you at the May board meeting, I said, here are the things coming up in June. And I would ask you to approve these so that Brittany has the ability to work with the kids during June. You can see the things that have already happened. We're already at June 18th. Now we're talking about some of the things that are probably going to happen in July. And I was asking then for you to revisit at least in under 10 days so that those July activities can take care of. The things that are listed below, where it says the additional days are days that Brittany has volunteered to attend in the past. When I talked with Nate, I asked him, please don't put down something that if we only provide an additional 10 days, I'm hoping that Brittany will continue to volunteer to be a part of these. She certainly doesn't have to. It's volunteering, but the fact that she's done these in the past, hopefully she would continue to do it in the future. So I get it. It's a per diem during the summer, and yet not everything she does is an extension of exactly what happens in the classroom. But the comparables for the other districts around us are there. They're doing the same thing. Antigo, you've got an extended contract over $6,000. Wisconsin Rapids, 25 extended days, $6,600. I can go on and on. So I think what our high school principal is presenting to you is that it's not pure, and it may need to be changed. But what you're being asked to approve right now is very similar to what many of the districts around us are currently doing. And if we're going to do something different, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and Mr. Munoz and Brittany and Nate to sit down and to say, should we extend an FFA contract? And take that into the summer with some of the things that are happening here, perhaps where we now say her co-curricular contract ends at, or FFA ends going into the summer. You have show choir contracts, you have other things that are almost year-round. I'm saying perhaps. I don't know where we go, but I thank you last time for giving us the 10 days so that Brittany can keep those activities going for June. Right now I'm asking you for a minimum of 10 days to keep the activities going through July. Anything beyond that would certainly be appreciated, but that was, we had said 20 days in the past, and we were hoping to get at least 20 days to get things done this summer.
I can just tell you, like, if Craig Martin said, hey, I work all year round, I'll say, Craig, I don't know any other football coach that can do that, so I'm not doing that. That's what I would tell him right away. I know you do a lot of work throughout the year.
All right, I think we want to act.
Call the question.
Right, well,
Oh, sorry.
I feel like John does. I guess she's asking for 10 days, so, and then we do have to revisit it. Right now, we don't have the time, or you're not going to take from your students.
For 15,
Right.
so the motion is for 15, so right now that is what we're gonna be voting on.
Yep.
The 15 additional days. Just because I know this might be a little torn, I'm gonna ask you to do a roll call vote, Amy.
Sure. Barnes,
Yes.
Bauman. No. Hewis,
Yes.
Gorman,
No,
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermany,
No.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
No.
Zebro.
so the motion will fail. At this time, I will seek a second motion.
I will make the motion to grant her 10 days, so she gets a complete total of 20 days.
Okay, so we have a motion by Kelly for additional 10 days to a total of 20. Do I have a second?
Sure.
And a second by Matt. I'm not gonna go further discussion, people, I'm sorry, but,
Roll call again.
yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Hewis,
Yes.
Gorman,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermany,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
No.
Zebro.
Yes.
The motion will pass. Much further than I want to discuss more, but, again, Justin, by the way, congratulations, I did say that earlier.
Thank you.
So, all right, we're gonna move on to item C, discussion and possible decision. Approval of greenhouse retrofit purchase and the school force building updates. So again, that was tabled from last month, just because there were some further questions. And if anybody wants to revisit that, talk more about it, otherwise it would be a motion.
I'd make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we table that for an additional month, and put it on the agenda for next month. Post the opportunity for us to get an update on balance, and this board to discuss prioritizing what we are going to do with that money. And then, ultimately, the idea of us voting to spend money on things with with that, you paraphrase this however you want on the agenda. We're making decisions to spend money that we told the community we were gonna pay down debt with. If we're going to change our mind on that and start spending it on these projects, then let's make that decision after thorough debate and discussion as a board, and then let's prioritize whether it's all or part or what we're gonna do and have an open, robust discussion about that. And then, in all fairness, we can give Mr. Kaiser direction so that he's not spinning his wheels, planning projects and getting prices if that's not our intention to spend.
Okay, so we have a motion by Matt to table and a second by Kelly. Further discussion.
I just want clarity, so the money that we are otherwise being asked to spend, we had a commitment to put it toward another purpose in a prior board?
Right, to pay down the debt.
So we're clear, we were given, this is how much money these energy efficient projects are gonna cost.
Is it the 38 or the 20?
Both.
Both, okay.
We borrowed that money without permission from the community under the energy exemption.
Okay.
And then in conversation amongst this board to the community, we said, if there's money left over, our intention is to pay down the debt and reduce those liabilities. My understanding is that might not be a smart thing to do, but we need to have that conversation as a board and determine what are we going to do with it before we start approving projects to spend the surplus money because
If we
we're
don't
under
do it,
budget.
we need to explain it.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Got it, thank you.
Correct.
But I do not favor letting these buildings that we fought for get, let them go into ruin. It's gonna cost more later.
Right, as I said, you gotta.
Well,
So he's saying he's asking for 1 month.
right.
I know that, we asked for it the last time.
Mike, I'll tell you this, that during this last week, I spoke with Mr. Kaiser and I said, what are the consequences if I make this motion to table this and move forward? And in full disclosure, Mr. Kaiser said, hey, we need to fix this greenhouse. And I said, okay, and he said, if we need to hold off on the school forest for a period of time, we're okay doing that. I will tell you that I stopped at the greenhouse and act like the creeper guy that just hopped out of his car today in the parking lot while I walked around the greenhouse. It's not falling down. It clearly is dated. I know there's energy efficiencies that will occur with this, but like there weren't holes in the wall. It's plexiglass. I don't think we're going into such disrepair that if we postpone this for a period of time to make good decisions, Mike, that we're not gonna have a greenhouse or that we're gonna be an embarrassment to the community.
Madam President, I would ask that the minutes not reflect that Matt said he was a creeper guy.
No, maybe put in capital letters and bold it.
And also,
I always feel that way when I'm in the parking lot.
Matt, I also do believe with Stephen, my conversation, he said he will know more about the list too.
Yep.
What's on there and more have a price range.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I guess we're in the middle of
Right.
our large demolition project right now, so by end of like next week, we'll have the majority of the project demoed at the elementary school. So if I find a big surprise, I hope to see it then. You know, I'll handle it at that point in time. But knowing that project's rolling, so we're gonna address as we roll. But I would really tell you probably by end of August, we'll have a really good bottom line where our money sits for contingencies and where we sit in our total budget. So I guess that, and I appreciate Matt making a statement. From my standpoint personally, I would like the board to make a determination what we want to do with that money. So I know if I'm moving forward, if I'm gonna table some things, because the issue a lot of times is really for me, the fact that matters since our window of opportunity to do work is kind of narrowed with the school situation. You know, I really can't lag too long. And that's why I kind of told Matt about the greenhouse. You know, the kicker for the greenhouse to me is a little more precedent because of the nature that if I want to book it, I gotta book it. I'm not gonna be able to come back in September, October and say I need to do it. My number is gonna probably hold and not gonna get it done, okay? That's why the school force gives me a little more options to play with timing with the contractor. That's a little more delicate for me if it doesn't move forward. Whether you choose to do that or not, it's totally up to you. That's one of my other things. But I would really say by the end of August, we'll have a really good idea of what we're gonna sit with our balance sheet, and you can determine that. I'd appreciate some information on how you wanna move forward with it.
John?
The one other thing to keep in mind, I believe July 22nd is when you're going to have your first discussion about next year's budget. And at some point in time, as Matt is saying, you can't just rely on this $1 million. It would be nice, and maybe that's the direction you choose to go, to spend some of this money to take care of things. But if you choose to go the other direction, to basically pay down the debt, and to save the taxpayers money. At some point, you're going to have a conversation about what are we putting in our 2019-20 budget for capital replacement or repairs? 50,000 a year, 100,000 a year, 200 a year. There's always money for the things you believe are important. Now, I don't know what's in there, but you need to have that conversation. What is it we're going to do? This isn't a brand new district. You've certainly done a lot of wonderful things, but there are things that are going to be wearing out on a yearly basis that need to be replaced. How much money do you plan on putting aside? Pretend that this million isn't there. Then how do you take care of the greenhouse in the forest building? Either you take it out of your fund balance, and it's a one-time cost, so that's doable. You got over $8 million there, so that's not unthinkable. Or you start putting together a significant capital replacement budget. And
It's
those are the discussions that come up
1.6
on
million.
replacement.
Well, and the other idea too, to keep in mind, to answer and echo off what Matt's saying, here's an opportunity where we're looking to fix some of these projects. We could enhance some of our classrooms with this, and we might be missing something by doing it, but don't shake your head. No, not, Brent.
It's gotta have some energy efficiency relative.
Well, but what I'm saying
We
is
can't
something to
put
tie in
remodel
with, that we might
classrooms.
not have thought of,
Well, there might be some things, but I don't want you to think you can put new carpet in.
Well, no.
But I think one of the keys, and Steve has said this, Steve has said it to me, and I think Matt just reinforced it. There are a lot of things that Steve could be working on, and coming back to you and saying, here's something that truly ties in, it's energy efficient, but if the board as a whole has taken the direction now, we're going to do what we said we were going to do, and the rest of that money is going back to the taxpayers. It's going to save Steve a whole lot of work in terms of trying to find those projects. That's right, you need to have that conversation first.
Correct.
I think, and I would just like to say, I think we're very fortunate to have that conversation. Because I can tell you from my experience in construction, working on old buildings, a lot of times the contingency funds are 20% and you're burnt up before you get 80% done. And I've done a lot of them, so I know. And I would say that's a credit to Nexus and their engineering corps going through the buildings really with a fine tooth comb to see any big problems. Triggered some. We did not have any bullets that hit us last year heavy. So I feel very fortunate in that regard that you paid for good services that for the engineering side. You brought that forward. I think it's paying you dividends as we sit here today. So I think you're really sitting in a great light. Because I can tell you, talk to other districts, they're over budget their stuff and they've got a black hole, they're gonna throw money in. And we're very fortunate not to be in the black hole. We're on the other side of the coin, which is kind of rare, especially really demolition work. New construction's handled, old stuff is difficult. So I guess I would just say, as you guys sit here tonight, I feel very refreshed that you sit in a great seat. Because we can be on the other side of that coin. That would not be where we want to be. So I leave you at that thought.
Right, so we do have a motion and a second to table. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion will carry. Item 9, new business, discussion and possible decision, school board photographs. Okay. Yeah, okay, this was my, personally, I don't like the individuals, and I said I would donate my camera and come and set up and have somebody take the picture and do as a group. I mean, I don't see why we all have to have individual headshots. I mean, that's totally up to you guys if you like doing it. Personally, it's making sure everybody shows up and is here. And I think if we could just do it as a group, one night prior to our board meeting, just set it up and bingo, done.
So Diane would like some input on it.
Yes.
When we do it as a group, before we do our budget meeting on the 22nd of July.
Exactly. But it's like the individual shots, I mean.
I think the intent behind it was just so that more community members knew who we were.
Right, oh, it'll still be, you can still have it up there with the names.
With the names, yeah.
Right.
Can you Photoshop like some gray out with your camera?
Or add.
Add height.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Take off some.
You do lots of things.
Yes.
That whole
So,
privacy thing.
at this time, I'm looking for a motion to see what you would like to do.
I make a motion that you're the president and you decide what kind of picture we're gonna get and I'll live with whatever your decision is.
Okay, is there a second? All right. Questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Just please let us know.
You don't want a picture?
You boys.
I'll get a picture. All right, moving moving on.
Photoshop you into the group.
Yes.
We'll green screen you.
Update on the school perception board committee. Okay, we do have a standing committee right now, which is myself, Matt, and Jess. So we actually just today received back the report. You did get it, correct? So, I don't know.
Once you forwarded it to me, but I didn't.
They did it a little different this year. They did, last year we were able to filter things in and out. It was just one report, so I'll talk to Carrie on that. And then, but next, our July meeting is when Sue's setting up a time to come and give the report and break it up for everybody. So at this time, I'm asking Matt and Jess if you still want to make sure you're still part of this committee. Because we have to look for a first week of July, if you can look at your calendar. Let me know what days look good for you to get together. So we can kind of look at our previous goals and maybe hone in and fix them or go in a totally different direction.
Okay, because July 23rd, no, July 16th will be our our regular board.
Yep.
And then we have a meeting July 22nd, is that the budget? Yeah,
Right.
okay, so just three.
So it's just for us three to meet
Yep,
prior
it's
to the
just
board
you guys,
meeting.
yep.
Yeah.
But just
So if you
everybody
guys can just get
knows,
back to me and let me know.
We have a meeting July
Do we
22nd.
want to have David a part of that?
I think so.
Yep, and the
Do we wanna
22nd
have
Monday.
David a part of that at that point?
Sure.
Just because I think it would be good for him to
Sure.
get eyes on.
Sure. I'll update everybody and keep everybody in the loop. Okay, moving on to C, discussion, status of district therapy dog.
Okay, I can do this one too. Click on-
No, where is she?
Christy's here.
Christy's
No,
here
no,
too.
no.
Another dog, not me.
Right there, look.
We did have a suggestion in this group picture, we would like to have the dog in
Yes.
there
Oh,
with us.
that's cute.
Would
Can
that
we
be
make that happen, Christy?
Yeah, July 22nd, it's my birthday, but I guess I'll be here.
Cozy in with us?
Does the dog live with you?
Not yet. That's part of our presentation, hold on. Jumping ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, can we go to slide 2? Just here's the update. So
I missed that
Mosey,
part and I read it.
Mosey was born January 2nd. She's currently 5 months old. She received her name in April after a school district-wide vote. And Renee Doms is her trainer in Stevens Point. Christy Health has been going once a week to the therapy dog class on Thursday nights from 7 to 7:45. Feel free to ask her any questions about how that is going. And she's building a really good relationship with Mosey. And currently Mosey has her own Facebook page with over 500 people. What do we have at the high school? 'Cause
You have
we
1,000. I wasn't gonna bring that up
1,000.
and burn you on that, but it's,
But we have a lot of people following our school district homepage. She has 500 and she's only 5 months old.
Wow.
Really doing that. All right, next slide.
All right, so Mosey came 3 times to the district. On May 1st, she came with Renee, and we walked around the elementary school. We went into a couple classrooms, and then we went over to the middle school, and we went into a couple classrooms there. A couple students read her a book, and then we walked down to the high school, and we walked into a few different classrooms down there, all with Renee there. And then on Wednesday, May 22nd, Mosey was due for her rabies shot, so we took her to Cronenweather Vet, because they have donated the veterinary care. So they were awesome, and she got her shots that day. She spent the afternoon at the high school, mostly in Phi Ed class. So she was running around in there and having fun with the kids. And then on June 3rd, she came and she did a walkthrough. She spent the morning actually in the elementary library with Mrs. Ajima. And she just hung out in there, and all the different classes came in and had class. And then in the afternoon, she walked around with Mr. Gregulewski, the middle school guidance counselor. Her anticipated schedule when she becomes full-time staff member, then she will be at the elementary school 2 days a week. Monday and Thursday are the days we're tentatively planning right now. On Tuesday, she'd be in the middle school, and then the high school on Wednesday, and on Friday, just in the middle school, high school complex.
So Mosey's upcoming timeline in July, August, and September. We'll have live continued training in October, November, part-time school and part-time training, and then the goal is by December/January, anticipated full-time employment. Mosey, on June 3rd, Mosey came to the district, and that's where that picture was. I called Renee and I said, Renee, where is Mosey currently behavior-wise? And I sent her an email, and this is what she said to me. Because I want to make sure that this is the right dog. She said, for one thing, when I called Mosey's name, Mosey wasn't coming. So I'm like, is that okay? She said, we don't want a dog that comes to their name, first of all. It is dangerous, and in a school setting, we would have her running everywhere when people are saying, Mosey, Mosey. So I totally get that. She said Mosey just turned 5 months old and is incredibly obedient and willing to work for her age. Typically at this stage, they're adolescents and they begin to buck the system a little bit. But her progress in training is at or above where most dogs are at for that age. There is a reason therapy organizations do not accept dogs under 12 months of age because they're still baby dogs. She is currently a favorite at the Portage County Care Center, and she said that Mosey is a once-in-a-lifetime dog because of Mosey's temperament. She's so calm when you see her, and she's not running all over the place. I went to Brady's office that day, towards the end of the day, and there were a bunch of soccer girls in there finishing up their season, and Mosey's just chilling, and they're all petting Mosey, and Mosey just lets them pet her. We do want to kind of measure the success of Mosey, but the question is, how are we going to do that? Because when Mosey came, just from a principal standpoint, I could measure the change in the climate immediately because the kids are smiling as they see Mosey laying on the ground. And they're going and petting the dog. And there's kids that are struggling, they'll come up and they'll pet the dog and their mood changes instantaneously. I don't know how we're going to measure the success of the dog, but I can tell as a principal that just having Mosey in the building changes the climate and culture like that. So we're all very excited for Mosey. And
there's a couple of SPED students that just struggle, and when we brought Mosey in, I mean, they had the best day they had in days. So
How often do you see her?
I go there every week.
Just that 45 minutes?
Yes.
Is that enough time?
The trainer is working with her more than that.
No, but I mean, is that enough time for her to get used to you and you to get used to her and, you know, before you become one?
Oh.
Before you get married.
When the police dog, so I met with the person who has the therapy dog at Wausau West, and he didn't meet his dog until it was fully trained, and he went down, trained with it for I think a week, and then it flew back with him. So that's just the way they work. So they train them, and the dog can't be an official therapy dog until it's a year old, and it has so many hours put in and stuff like that. So
I'm saying it's still a puppy yet, so I think it sounds like you're even training before the correct age of 12 months, correct?
well, yeah, it can be certified at that point and pass all the tests.
Let me just say that I consider myself probably one of the more knowledgeable people in the room, as I've managed to spend like over $200,000 in taxpayer money on dogs, including funding 2 therapy dogs. And the idea that by the end of the year, Mosey's gonna come here and it's like you bought this brand new car and everything's supposed to work, that's a fallacy. Because the dogs that are hitting it out of the park for us are training and learning new things. It's a better dog today than it was 3 months ago because it has more skills today than it did 3 months ago. The number one thing that is like finding that diamond or needle in a haystack is that the dog has to act like it's on Valium, because much of this dog's day is spent it's laying underneath the table, like not bothering anyone, allowing people to get work done until it's time for that dog to go to work. And a significant amount of the time that dog is working, it's got a kid that's having an issue, and it's just gonna lay on the kid's lap and let the kid pet it and talk to it or read to it. Doesn't have to do a whole lot other than be there and have that unconditional dog component to it. So that to me is, I can tell you I've personally never owned a dog that at 5 months old would lay and not bounce off the walls the second somebody provides a distraction. So my understanding of where Mosey's at and what she's doing, and my knowledge of how much work you have to do ahead of you in getting to know the dog and investing in all that time every day, I'm glad you're excited about it. I'm glad you're willing to do it. There's a lot of work coming, but this is a great dog that I think is exactly what we're looking for in this district.
So when it came on June 3rd, a lot of kids wanted to shake, and she couldn't shake. She hadn't been taught that. So I asked, when I brought her back, I was like, hey, can you teach her to shake? And so last Thursday, she was like, she can shake. And so I tried it, and she can do it now. So, I mean, it was just, a week later. So, and then the other thing, last week when I went to work with her, she was really excited because there were all the other dogs there, and she was just jumping, and I wanted her to just stay by my side and walk. And so I just waited in the parking lot for a few minutes for her to calm down, and finally she realized, like, oh, I'm gonna have to work if I'm gonna be allowed to move from this spot. So finally she's calmed down, and then she walked with me all through downtown Stevens Point, right by my side. So
I would share with the board that I think tomorrow Christy's going to bring,
yep.
I call her my competition. Mosey's coming over tomorrow, and the reason I say that is that early in the year, my wife would constantly call me, how are things going in Mosinee? I'd get home, she'd ask me questions about what's going on in the school district, and then we get a therapy note. Rosemary is one of the loyal followers of Mosey on her website. She talks to the dog, and somebody is responding to my wife through Mosey. I have no more questions from Rosemary about how things are going on in Mosinee. It's strictly, how's Mosey doing, and when do I get a chance to meet Mosey? So when Nate talks about her popularity, if you've gone there, it's amazing. I think if Mosey said, we need all brand new Chromebooks, everybody in the community go, well, Mosey says we need Chromebooks.
We've jokingly said we should probably take some pictures, and she could run any future referendum or future,
Yes. She's going to be a wonderful addition to the district.
Does anybody have any other
Show you water in
questions?
the picture.
Yeah, she was, I got to meet her too, she was a sweetie. She did like the treats too. Okay, we are moving on, thanks guys.
Thank you.
But she'll be in the picture.
Okay, yeah.
That's the way here.
Okay.
People will say, that's what Mark looks like?
Okay, moving on to item 10, building committee meeting report. Kelly.
Oh, the building committee met tonight at 5:30, and we have some new business, and I will let Steve kind of fill you in on what's been done.
Sure. Like I said, right now, we're kind of in full construction mode. Today, actually, we set the crane up. We set the last units on the middle school, which is great. And so all the units are in place of that structure. I'm hoping to have the middle school kind of buttoned up by, probably by the end of June, first week of July. I'm waiting for some electrical wiring to be done, but the majority of work of that facility will be complete. And they'll open it up and get some of our staff working in those areas that they can't be in currently. But the heavy lifting is happening at the elementary school. So on the pictures you see there, a lot of things that are being installed up on the roof, curbing. A lot of heavy metal has to go in to support the new chilling unit. But of course, it never stops raining, so the roofer can't really touch the roof right now. But we're hoping Mother Nature will help us get that window of opportunity. But basically, we're at about a 2.5 week demolition period over at the elementary school. That is our biggest goal. So like I said, if I find any big holes that we're looking for, I'm going to see it then, is our intent. But it's going very smooth. We're protecting all our flooring. The contractors will walk through at that time and know the rubber floor has to be covered, so we are covered with cardboard. The demolition crew, when they complete, will take pictures of everything, so we don't have to do any damage, who's responsible for it. But so far, it's working out very well. We're just kind of getting the project going. We have an end date, of course, before school starts. I really don't feel that we're stressed with that matter. In fact, our big equipment's coming here already. So the contractors are currently, we're working 5 days a week right now. They're going to jump down to 4/10s, and that's going to work nice on our schedule because if there's something that can be done with one contract on a Friday, they can keep doing and flipping along. And that gives us some time to clean things up as well. But like I say, that's the biggest thing we're rolling forward with. Over the week, we moved the entire elementary school to the library and to the cafeteria, so the contractors can work. And once that areas are being done, we'll actually reinstall that furniture, of course, and get it all put back in place for the teachers to open their day up. But like I said, everything's going as planned right now. I don't have any big bumps to talk to you about, and I'm hoping it stays that way through the summer.
I got just a silly question. When I read through this, it said the repurposed old fence materials from the 2008 elementary school edition. Where do we have storage for something like that? Which,
Actually, there was a temporary fence that was put in when they did the work over there.
yeah,
That
but where are
was-
we storing all this fencing?
Oh, I put some rolls behind the shed right behind the building here.
Oh, okay.
It's just the rolls and pieces that we took apart, and I keep all the poles that are decent, and we wrapped all metal up. So those are custom gates, and we actually made a custom roof on that because the kids throw balls on top and it falls in the air conditioner. So we're trying to defer, any damage to that piece of equipment. But that you're hooking to an old building with things that are not very level, and we try to make that fit. So yeah, so just basically something we did in the house. If I paid a contractor, it'd be expensive, so we just make it rework. If that answers your question, just
Yeah, I was
pieces,
just wondering
parts.
where we're storing old fencing, where we had storage.
I had some old rolls and some old pipes that I got stored behind the shed there, yeah.
Now just also add to what Steve had said about the safety at the elementary school.
Yeah, it is paramount, in the contractor's mind. We definitely put that to the contractor's meeting this week, and also the foreman's meeting we have on Mondays. There will be no work being done on the backside of the elementary school between the hours after 7:30 to 1 o'clock. And even when that does happen, after that time, we're gonna have spotters because that playground is unsecured. Kids come everywhere, they're in tubes or bikes, so everybody knows if you have a piece of equipment running out there, you will have a spotter out there, and you will watch that playground and be 360 because you just can't control that environment like we could before. So that is paramount in everybody's eyes, and we're gonna move forward with that. So everybody has their marching orders, as it were. And we just want to have a safe site best we can. It's kind of a hard site just because of the location of it is, but like I said, in a couple weeks we'll have the big equipment up on the roof, and I won't have cranes outside the building, which makes me a lot happier.
And that concludes the building and grounds.
Any
And then
questions?
item 11, personnel committee meeting report. Jessica.
Okay, personnel committee met tonight, and I'm going to have Julie help me in the absence of Darlene as I need it. But on item 11A, discussion of current job vacancies in the district. We have 1 teacher vacancy and 7 support staff vacancies that you have listed in front of you. Music teacher vacated in the elementary school was Jessie Westfall. We'll look at her letter of resignation here shortly. Support staff vacancies, we have a housekeeper for 4 hours vacated by Warren Freestead, who is retiring, general education teacher assistant at the elementary school for 7.25 days, vacated by Amber Sparby, who is now accepted as special education teacher assistant position. Library teacher assistant at the elementary school, 7.25 hours per day. Position was vacated by Wanda Pecca, who accepted an elementary building secretary position. Library teacher assistant at all buildings, 3 hours per day. Position was vacated by Kelly Mullins, who is now going to job share a position with another employee. General education teacher assistant at the middle school, 7.2 hours per day. Position was vacated by Sandy Shinuski, who accepted the health teacher assistant position. And then special education teacher assistants, 2 at the middle school, 7.25 hours per day. Positions were vacated by Carly Lindstrom and Mackenzie Burrows, who accepted teaching positions. And then we have 1 special education teacher assistant at the Pride Center, 6.5 hours per day. 2 new positions were approved by the board in March, but 4 positions were offered. Only 1 candidate accepted at this time. Item 11B, discussion and possible decision of acceptance of elementary music teacher resignation. So in front of you, you have the letter of resignation from elementary music teacher Jessie Westfall. She taught here for 14 years and is moving up to their other home in 3 Lakes with her husband, who recently gotten a job offer. And at this time, I am seeking a motion to accept the letter of resignation.
I'll make that motion.
Give it a
I'll
motion.
second it.
Motion by Peter and a second by Mark. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry.
Item 11C, discussion and possible decision approval of additional 4K special education assistant position for the 2019-20 school year. I'm going to have Mary or maybe Amy jump in on this one and give a brief overview.
Sure. We have an early childhood student that's going into 4K that has very significant social, emotional, and behavioral needs. And we're asking for someone to help out 2 days a week the first semester and 3 days a week the second semester. It's also an IEP-driven need too.
This is a child that is in the district, just for additional information, and the personnel committee unanimously approved that recommendation education, and I am seeking a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Mark and a second by Matt. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry.
Item 11D, discussion and possible decision approval of additional hours for the library assistant position. With this particular decision, I will let Lori, I think, is going to maybe talk to that a little bit more, or Julie, whoever would like to give more of the background.
We have the. Okay, let me start again. I'm not an HR director, I said, so this is like, I'm more nervous to talk about this than I am about anything in curriculum. We have an additional, the position that we have currently is 3 hours per day, and we always have 2 adults in the library. Due to the elementary schedule change, as well as the middle school, and when Lori is needed, as well as a change in hours of when the person, the second assistant that is part-time is needed, we simply are asking on Fridays for 5 more hours so that we can cover what is needed in the library to run the facilitation of library lessons, as well as book checkout and searching support for students.
That additional 5-hour cost is listed on the back of the sheet in front of you for $2,486.72. The Personnel Committee unanimously approved this. However, I do want to add that Kevin gave his historical information of how we used to have potentially high school students that would come and fill positions like this in a tutor format or just offer assistance. And so we are challenging our thought process to think along those lines as well, to maybe look at that in the future, but not at this point in time.
I just need to clarify that every single book in
So, at this time, we are seeking a motion for the additional 5 hours for the library assistant position.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion by Peter and a second by Mark. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry.
Item 11E, discussion and possible decision, approval of additional resignations, retirees, and hires. We did get one at the last minute, yes, which is added to your pile. That is Chelsea Gilbert, and she is a 4th grade teacher in the middle school, and we unanimously accepted her letter of resignation, and I am seeking a motion to do the same.
Motion made.
We have a motion by Kevin and a second by Mark. Questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion will carry.
Item 11, we have an update on the new extracurricular hires. So we have 5 new extracurricular hires. I won't go through all the details. They are in front of you. However, they are high school assistant cross-country coach Andy Bruss, who is replacing Nicole Fisher. High school assistant hockey coach is Jeremy Ramadini, replacing Rick Skinner. High school assistant hockey coach Brett Yurkowski is replacing Greg Jensen. Middle school football coach David Lai is, we didn't have one last year, but the year prior is replacing Chris Woblinski, and we didn't have one last year due to the low, the small class size and low enrollment in the football program as well for the middle school. And the additional, or the final position as middle school boys cross country coach is going to be Denny Flatham replacing Jason Schuer. Our final item is 11G, and at this time we have no future agenda items brought forward for the Personnel Committee, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Finance Committee report. Matt?
Okay, tonight we held our Finance Committee. Everybody was present. The first item is item 12A, the monthly voucher list. It was an expensive month with a total for month being $1,960,293.75. A couple items of note that might be worthwhile for you over the next month when talking to people is to Firefly Computers, we drafted a check for $259,350, which is the totality of our Chromebook purchase for the next 3 years. So when we're talking to the community about what things cost, we figure $250,000 or so puts Chromebooks 1-to-1 with our students. We spent about another $40,000 purchasing 60 laptops for our staff. And of that figure, $212,462 was spent on Nexus Solutions. So I thought I'd pick a few biggies for you. Brent gave us his final monthly voucher explanation as we fire questions, any updates on those. And before I ask for a motion, I just wanted to commend Brent on all his years of service and how insightful he is, and he's willing to argue with us, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not. But I want to thank you for your service, and with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the monthly voucher list.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Gorman,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermany,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
Yes.
Zebro.
Yes.
All yes.
Motion passes. Item 12B, discussion of possible decision approval of the monthly treasurer's report. We discussed the treasurer's report. We looked at some of the fund balances that we have. One of the things we talk about every month is with interest rates around 2% right now, we're looking at almost doubling what kind of interest we had last year based on our fund balance, which equates to, interesting way Brent put it on his final day, like, guys, that's a teacher and a half, or that's 3 assistants. That simply our interest helps us cover annually, so that was very educational. And with that being said, I'd entertain a motion to approve the monthly treasurer report.
I'll second that.
I'll make the motion then. I made the motion, Kelly seconded. Is that a roll call? I'd like a roll call, please.
Gorman,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermany,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Maple,
Yes.
Zebro,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes,
Bauman,
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
All yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Item 13, other reports, WASB, Kelly.
And that would be me, reaching all children. The Equity Symposium and Summer Leadership Institution is held July 12th and 13th at Red Lion Hotel, Paper Valley in Appleton, with some really good and informative sessions. It's a 2-day, you don't have to do both days. You can do, yes, and that is on the Friday and Saturday of July.
Yes, yeah, correct. And I think right now, I signed up for Friday, you signed up for Friday. Peter, you're Saturday? Yeah, I mean, Friday really looks, there's a lot of things I've never seen before. I know, it's hard.
Right, Saturday.
Yes.
Okay, and that's all I have.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Item
Right now.
B, CISA 9.
There's nothing much to report on other than you got this in your packet.
Yep, I read
Read
it.
it and enjoy it.
Okay.
Item 14, future agenda items. Right now, anybody want to entertain bringing something back to the future?
Yes, well, I mean, we've talked about them. One, to make sure we have on the agenda, the energy efficiency money, and then
Yes.
bringing back greenhouse and school forest.
Yep.
And then 2, we have had 4 homes for sale, moving forward for quite some time. I don't think there's been any interest in that. Yet I think it's time that we have a discussion about what to do with those moving forward.
It's a closed session item tonight. That would be in the closed session.
See?
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
I don't know when that goes, people are asking what they're gonna do, so
Okay. And I know, Mark, you had asked about the parking lot too, but that's gonna be coming in
yeah,
July.
Steve said we're working on it.
We did,
Yeah.
we discussed it a little bit in the building.
Okay,
They graded it, so it's, people are happy with this.
got it. So before we go into close, because this is Brent's last meeting, and John's last meeting, we have a cake, which says,
Really, it's for you, Brad.
go ahead, Mark, read it.
Good, John, thank you for all your service with the Mosinee School District.
So, put away.